Hello, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Michael Rowe. I'm president of the Alumni Association, and it's so great to see everyone today. So I have the honor of introducing my friend, Dr. Mike Nayak. So Mike and I go way back. We actually started our training together, and then I went in the lab for 2 years with Dr. Rocco, and Mike finished 2 years before I did. And here's a picture of he and his wife, Avani, and they really set the bar for wellness for the residents outside the hospital, and we owe them a lot during our residency and living a good life. And out of a group of smart, talented trainees, Mike was he was cream of the crop, top of the class in board exams, in service, along with Dan Allum and Stacy Gray. And here's, let's see, where's the, here's a photo of us together with Frank Fechner, Joe Nadal, Jeannie Chung, myself, and Derek Lynn. And those were some good times. Everyone looks so happy there. So Mike is an internationally recognized published figure in facial plastic and reconstructive surgery. He and his wife, Avani, founded the Nayak Plastic Surgery Center in St. Louis, which is now a household name in cosmetic and reconstructive surgery. Mike Nayak.
All right, well, I first have to say I am very honored to even be asked to have gotten into this residency training program, and then to be asked to be a part of this 200th anniversary celebration, I feel like is just incredible. And when I was asked several months ago if I would speak, I said, about what? I don't feel like, compared to the people in this crowd, the people that trained me, and as was previously brought, the people that trained them are here, and people that I trained with that are now department leaders and hospital administrators and division chiefs all around the country. And I'm a simple country facial plastic surgeon. I'm just a private practice guy. And they said, you'll think of something. And so this is kind of what I thought of, and it's not going to be the most academic presentation, but I think it's what I think of. So is my presentation? Yeah, follows. Perfect. So I'll call it pay it forward. So we all, having been here, a lot has been invested in us. And when you're here, you are really impacted by academicians, and there is a spoken and unspoken kind of hope that you will become an academician and impact lives going forward beyond just your patient care. I was lucky to train with the absolute best, and by that I don't just mean the attendings that the first that come to mind, but my operating room nurses were incredible. I mean, the operating room nurses could make you look like you knew what you were doing, or they could sink you just in a heartbeat. They would do the dissection with the suction and make you look like a genius, or when you held your hand out, they wouldn't put anything in it if you didn't know what you wanted and you weren't nice to them. So the operating room nurses, the staff on the floors, the floor nurses, absolute super specialists, the emergency ward nurses, I mean, they would save patient lives with you just happening to stand there. It was incredible. Dedicated head and neck anesthesia. I do all my surgery under deep sedation in the office, and what I learned from the anesthesia team here is what allows me to do what I do today. And head and neck anesthesia, deep sedation of patients where the anesthesia team can't come near the airway because you're working on it. It requires a real team effort, and those people invested in me. Best co-residents you could possibly imagine, many of whom are obviously now in leadership positions here in the eye and ear. We had Dr. Curtin, dedicated head and neck radiology specialty, Marlene Duran, dedicated ID, head and neck specialty focused. Again, every single day, even in my field, which is facial plastics, can I give this guy a steroid? And I'd hear Marlene Duran in the back of my head saying, an otherwise immunocompetent person can have a steroid and you don't have to worry about making their infection any worse. Like literally I hear her say that. I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead and do the steroid bolus. But what I learned here wasn't strictly otolaryngology. So I could give, the one thing I could do is I could do an hour just going through all the different attendings, but I picked just a few and let you know the things that I think about every day that were not technically otolaryngology. So Dr. J, Parvez Dinfaza, he taught me about Yuganagan. Does everyone know what Yuganagan means? So Yuganagan, I still use this word daily. Yuganagan means the patient presents and they give you their story and you look at their physical exam and their history and their lab work and their imaging and it just doesn't add up, but the patient really believes there's something going on. And they're sweet as can be and they're not trying to take you for a ride and what they've got is Yuganagan. There's just something not exactly right. But you, as a physician, still treat them, and you don't belittle it, and you don't call them crazy. You work it out. You give them confidence, and you set them on their way, and you fix their Yuganagan. So that was an important one. Another one that he really instilled in me, and this is, Dr. J, we had our most time with him when we were PGY2s, baby ENT doctors. So it was formative for our generation in terms of teaching us how to work with people, work with patients. You keep them coming back. The less happy they are, the more needy they are, the more you need to bring them back. And so, I think about that in my office hours. My success story patients, I never see again. They come to St. Louis, I see them for 6 or 8 or 10 days, and then they're gone. And it means afternoon office hours is all my complications, all my unhappy people, and it becomes hard to not get depressed, being like, do I do anything right at all? Because everyone's unhappy, and then you're bringing them back because that's what you have to satisfy them and to invest in them and to make them feel whole again. And it's Dr. J, and neither one has anything to do with ENT. Michael Cunningham, I'm not sure if he's here today. I haven't run into him just yet. Michael Cunningham was the PD-ENT division chief here at the Eye and Ear when I was training. And we would do consults at the Mass General PICU, and I remember it was some neonatal patient with tracheomalacia or something. And I was the PGY2. I went over there and did the consult, and where's the chat? Anybody seen the chat? There are paper charts at this point. And I went through the paper chart and all the millions of pages and did a really beautiful summary. I'm proud of myself. Amazing summary of the kid's thing. It was like 4 pages of, he sits down, he looks at it, and he goes, 1 page, doctor. And, outside the otolaryngology, one of the things that he taught me was clarity and succinctness. And, it's great if you can write a 4-page history of the patient. But what you need to be able to see is you need to be able to see through it and put together a succinct, clear vision and succinct, clear plan for this patient and not get lost in the minutiae. And so that's one of the random things that Michael taught me. Dan Deschler, I know he is here because I ran into him last night. Dan, he joined the head and neck faculty while I was a resident here and took on, I think actually right now he might be doing an incredibly complicated life-saving trach, but he took on incredibly complicated life-saving surgery. But the 2 things that stood out to me about Dan when he joined the faculty is he would do these complex extirpations, complex reconstructions, and still get home by 5 or 6 o'clock, still be a family guy. It was, you could do both. You could be the best of the best and then not completely sacrifice your entire life to your career. And that was really eye-opening for me because he was one of the very few that I saw do that. He also never let anything languish in his inbox, and I think of him all the time too. I did a couple of research things under Dan. I sent something back to him. 20 minutes later, I'd get it back. Nothing sat in his inbox, and that's a way to live. I mean, I think that allows you to do the first part. Get out. He didn't procrastinate on anything, and so non-medical lessons that still to this day get me. Mark Varveris, do you guys know Mark? Mark was a powerhouse head and neck surgeon when I was here. He was he wasn't the chief of head and neck at that point, but he was the most prolific and most gifted head and neck surgeon at that point when I was training. And he insisted all the residents call him Mark. He was always had time for everyone. I have no idea how he did it. Always had time to do a run by the Esplanade. And just the most humble, most approachable person. And then when I moved back to St. Louis, I joined his department there. I worked under him for a couple of years. He was a tireless advocate for me, trying to do crazy cosmetic stuff inside the academic department. And then when I left and go into private practice, that wasn't the nicest thing to do to Mark in his department when I left and go into private practice. He was incredibly understanding, and his only concern was, are you going to be okay? Like, are you going to be able to do it? Are you going to, it's a challenging thing to do. And just from Mark, grace, having time for everybody, being humble. Those are the things I learned from Mark, aside from head and neck surgery. Dr. Nadal is here today. When I was a resident, I was terrified of Dr. Nadal. Not because he was mean. He was a gentleman, always. But he had a power about him. And I was presenting an otology clinic one day, and he's sitting in his chair, and I'm presenting the patient to him. And mid conversation, he looks down. He's got a crumb on his tie, and he said, "You know, Mike, I used to think that as people got older, stuff like this happens because they don't care." And he looked at me, and for the first time, I saw one of my giants being human. And he said, "Now I realize it's because we're getting older, and we can't see little stuff like that." And it makes, and you go, you know what? The people that you respect as the giants of the giants, we're all human. We all have seasons, and that was one of the things that I took from that moment. And I still feared him, and I still respect him, but that's when I realized he was human. Dr. Salman, I'm so sad he's not here today. He was in this presentation before. He sadly passed away just recently. He's the guy I talk about most, ironically. He was also very impactful when I was at PGY2. He used to dictate right in front of his patients, period, paragraph. And by dictating right in front of his patients, he would let them hear exactly what was going to be in their note, and there was no difference between what was in the note and what he told the patient. He was very good about telling patients, this is the best we can do. You know, and he would say, we all have our cross to bear. Meaning, I've done everything I can. I know I can't make you perfect. You know, this is where it is. And being honest with patients. My favorite one was, you know, they'd come in with something that was going to get better with time, and he would tell them to eat potatoes. Eat potatoes for 6 months. I say that today. I'll be like, eat potatoes for 6 months and it'll be better. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. It's not the potatoes. So we can never pay back the debts that we owe. I can never pay these people back, and honestly, they probably don't want me to. They've moved on with their lives. They have bigger fish to fry, but we can pay them forward. And what I've luckily been able to do is, even though I'm not a full-time academic, and in some ways you kind of feel like you let the history of the institution down a little bit, we can still pay them forward. So I've always been a terrible writer. You know, poor Dan had to help me write this Indecide anastomosis paper. I've always been a terrible writer, a reluctant writer, but now there are other ways you can pay people forward. So I've been very lucky to be able to generate CME content for a long time for facial surgeons. And actually, Babak Azizadeh, who's here somewhere, is also generating significant amounts of CME content that surgeons can watch. You know, it's fantastic. So this has been a new way that we can really kind of pay forward. I can't tell you how many younger surgeons will come to me and say, I watch every one of your videos, and I'm so thankful. And since I watched that, now I can, you know, approach the submandibular gland through the neck. I can do all these crazy dissections. Lectures, courses. You know, this is a golden era for lectures and courses, and setting them to international now. It's incredible. Live surgery, cadavers, you can do all of this and impact thousands of docs at a time, which is fantastic. I'm so fortunate I get to speak 13, 14 weeks a year. It's fantastic. I remember when Dr. Zeitels would get people in watching, you know, they'd be climbing around in the operating room watching him operate. I'm so fortunate I get 3 docs a day from somewhere around the world will come watch me operate. I've been so fortunate. I've had these 2 guys come hang out. That's Carlos and Babek. And so it's one of my greatest joys is to receive doctors in my office and have them come stay for a week or so and actually get to educate one-on-one. I don't know if you can see these little pins or not, but these docs come, and, oh, the video didn't play, but it's fine. These docs come, and I don't know if that video is clickable or not, but literally from everywhere. And they love coming in, they watch for a couple weeks, and then they put their little pin on the map. And I've had, I don't know, 500, 600 people now come from, it's okay if the video doesn't play, come from all over. And I have now this little community, which is wonderful. It's actually turned into a kind of online thing. So they then reach out later and be like, hey, can I run a case by you? I found out spending, an hour a day answering, hey, can I run a case by you? And so I said, you know what, I'm going to put together a Telegram channel, and you can run a case by me as long as it's on this channel. I'll get some of my other peers that are really well respected to be a part of it, and then it's become kind of a live thing. Now we have like 2,500 people in this group. It's chugging away right now, I'm sure, while I'm up here speaking. And it's become like an ongoing fellowship for the rest of your life. You're learning from one another in a closed setting. So that's been a good thing. And then finally, we can educate the public directly now. So, I've been very fortunate to be, for whatever reason, suburban Midwest dad on Instagram catches traction. So I've been very fortunate to be able to reach a lot of people that way, reach a lot of young doctors around the world through social, through public press. So, I still, to some degree, feel a little bit not being an academician, like I don't want to say let the place down, but it's not exactly the mission. But I also feel like, when I stop practicing, a lot of what you guys invested in me will have gone forward into many other surgeons coming forward. So in summary, we are all super lucky to have had the opportunity to be a part of this legacy. What the pioneer taught us, as a couple of the people that preceded me said, make us who we are today. Now more than ever, though, we can actually all pay it forward, whether or not we're in academic medicine ourselves. Thank you.